Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video from Bayek Gaming. I am the Majestic Snare and I welcome you to this review of Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, where do we start? Where's Lee on this review? Well, he absolutely detests Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft. I think it's unfair to have somebody that absolutely hates it on a review, as well as him telling me there's no way in hell he's going to play this game and you can fucking do that one yourself, Snare. That's pretty much how it went down. So here I am, and Assassin's Creed Origins. 10 years, huh? 10 years of Assassin's Creed. Since 2007 when the first one came out and blew everyone's fucking minds. And now, here we are 10 years later, everyone hoping that it's going to be okay. I made a video a few weeks ago talking about why I'm worried about the franchise or Assassin's Creed Origins, because it might ruin the franchise, it might put stuff into place that shouldn't be there. Or ruins the canon, or doesn't understand like some parts of the game that's always been told. And I don't think it's done that. I think it's been quite clever with how it's done it. The game doesn't start off with assassins. You start off as a guy called Bayek, and you are husband to a woman called Aya, I think, yes. And they have a little boy called Kimu, who is killed by some mysterious masked men. And then you are basically on a mission of vengeance and anger to go and kill them and ensure your child's future in the afterlife, essentially. Being ancient Egypt, they believe in an afterlife, and that's how it goes down. The story itself is pretty strong, I think, in this. It's quite a basic one. Bayek is thinking of just vengeance the entire time. He just wants to kill the people responsible for killing his son. With Aya there as well, they're basically Magi who look after the people of Egypt. So that's a nice kind of setting that enables Assassin's Creed to happen. So this is well before Assassin's Creed is a thing, and so it's kind of nice that they kind of look like assassins, but then they're doing assassin stuff. They haven't got that weird eagle vision, but they do have a fucking eagle instead, called Senu, who you use to kind of map out and tag enemies. You can fly wherever you like with the eagle. You can spot stuff and discover things, and it's kind of a nice touch, and I've used it so much. I think it's a really good game mechanic, especially when you're trying to find entrances into buildings and stuff like that. I think it works really, really well. But this story takes us back to well before the Brotherhood was even started, and before the Templars and everything else. The classic story of Assassin's Creed in ancient Egypt, where this one's set. You have the Order that come out and start being kind of Templarish, and you have the assassins, basically Bayek and Aya, who are kind of doing assassiny things. How is the game itself? The game does have a few twists to normal Assassin's Creed games. So I've mentioned the eagle, but you also have the combat, which has been overhauled. So now we have a system which is more like Dark Souls than it is Assassin's Creed. I refer to the Assassin's Creed combat not like Arkham style combat, which is a little bit, but I refer to it as God mode combat. It's the feeling that you are fucking untouchable when the piles of bodies are just building up around you. Countering and executing was pretty much how I survived in every Assassin's Creed game. In this one, you have light attack, heavy attack, you have parry, you have block, you have evade, you have a special. It kind of all comes together. It does work quite nicely. Instead of a God mode, it's more of a no mode, where like it can get a bit hairy, but you feel like it's a challenge and you feel like you can get through it. I think it's a pretty good form of combat. I think it works quite well. And you have your different weapons. You can create a skill later on to have double wielding, or not double wielding, but double carrying. So you can switch between two, and that is a nice use, as well as having two types of arrows. Because there are different types of arrows. You can have a predator bow, a warrior bow, a light bow, and they've all got different characteristics, and it's how you want to play your own style. The one problem I've got with the skill tree is that it does split it off, although it's a good thing that it does split it off, but you can have basically three main branches. So if you want to be more stealthy, you've got stealthy bits. If you want to be more combat, you've got more combat bits. But if you play a certain way, then you might not touch any of those other skills, and some of them are a bit redundant. So it's not impossible to be exactly how you want to play the game, but you will get a section where stealth doesn't work, and so you have to come up with a different way. You have to do a bit of combat, and if you're going up against big heavy enemies, and you don't have certain types of attack that you've unlocked, it could be a bit difficult, could be tough, etc, etc. But all of this takes place in a beautiful setting, and I absolutely mean the word beautiful. It's one of the best looking games I think I've played in terms of environment. I mean, even the Assassin's Creed games in the past have always had great textures, great environments. If you can see it, you can climb it, or cleverly disguised in case you can't. But this one, you can just go fucking anywhere you like in this game. I haven't actually reached the edges. I haven't tried, but I don't think it'll be too easy. You won't feel like you're boxed in at all. It's an absolutely massive game arena of gameplay, all divided up into sections where you have not level caps, but it's leveled as an advisory. So if you go into an area, nothing to stop you going into it, but you will potentially meet enemies that are too strong for you, you can't deal with, and they will just kill you and desynchronize you. Now, desynchronization is a funny one because we are dealing with an animus piece of technology. The Abstergo employees have that machine that can plug in and go back to your distant memories from ancestors. And in this occasion, we've got the outside Assassin's Creed game with a woman called Layla, who I guess is a descendant of either Aya or Bayek, and you kind of have a little bit of kind of scene setting, but it's not really needed. I don't know why they continue to do that. Now, one of the things that's is strange to me is the AI in this game. So there are occasions where the AI will just wander off in a direction if you have to follow them for a mission, and then they'll get to a certain wall or something and they'll try and walk through it. Then they'll just go back the way they fucking came. I had to follow someone swimming across an entire bay, and then they got up out of the water and then sort of had a moment to think and then got back in the water and started swimming back the way they come from. Stuff like that annoys me. It's amusing. There was one particular occasion where a guy shoved his head up a horse's arse, quite literally disappeared up the horse's bum. This stuff happens. I don't know why, but it does. One other thing I'll mention about the NPCs is the quality of the facial animations and stuff. With the main characters, it's great. The cinematics, fantastic. Looks really, really good. When it comes to the NPCs and the kind of lesser secondary characters, they don't look as good. They really don't. I don't know what's happening there. It's a bit of a Mass Effect Andromeda syndrome. It doesn't ruin the story, it just looks a bit uncanny valley. And I have seen better facial animations on characters like that from previous Assassin's Creed games, which are at least 2 to 3 years old. So I don't know what's going on there. But when you look at the size of this world, the love and care that's been put into the environments and stuff, maybe it's just the fact that they didn't have time. Who knows? But for me, all of that draw distance, the environments, the texturing, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think it just looks absolutely beautiful. Now, how you traverse the game in Assassin's Creed is pretty much well known. Through parkour, climbing up side of buildings, jumping into bales of hay. I think in this game it does it okay. I didn't expect so many tall structures in ancient Egypt, but I guess in ancient Egypt they were still fucking standing, so it doesn't really kind of break anything for me. There's a couple of big temples, you kind of delve into Greek life as well. There's a lot of that around, and the diving into hay bales has always been a thing. Why that's a thing yet, I'm not sure, because I've never got on with a leap of faith. I've never understood how you can't break every bone in your body, but you jump a bit too far and it's like, ugh. It's the same thing. You'd still hurt if you fell into a bale of hay. It hasn't got that much absorption. Anyway, I'm going off a tangent. Bayek's story and his vengeance is a relatable story. His anguish is clearly well controlled in some of the subtle scenes, showing his true state of mind. When he's having a chat to somebody, they'd say, "Oh, come down to the tavern later, we'll have a drink," and they're laughing and joking and slapping each other on the back. And as they walk off, he's walking behind the other person, and Bayek's face just drops. If you blink and you miss it, but it's a very subtle change, and it makes it feel like he's playing a part to get to the vengeance, to get what he needs to get to the next person to kill. It's as simple as that. It's phenomenal how it's done, and it's not laboured. It's there and it just happens. But his relationship with his wife, although it's strong, every time they meet up, they just want to fuck each other. And I think it's a bit tired. It's a bit Shakespearean. It's like, wife, how are you? Nice to see you again. Please sit on my cock. It's like, I don't understand the need to play it like that. There was less love and there was more kind of impulse there. More kind of carnal needs rather than husband and wife. It was kind of strange. And because of that, the anguish kind of seems out of place, because he was quite happy just to shut off and have a quick shag, and then with his friends be all like morose and hiding behind them. So I don't quite know how that was playing off each other, but that's how it went. As ever in Assassin's Creed, the NPCs are those living, breathing, virtual folks going about their daily lives, and it does feel quite real. You can walk past somebody farming or somebody selling stuff or making stuff or having fun and playing as kids. There's loads of stuff in there that you do get to see, and it does feel so nice and immersive. It's very, very cool. Anywhere you go, there's various parts of the world that are empty, but then you get those dense city populated areas, and that's really fun to be around. And the character models are kind of recycled a little bit, but it's not as much as you'd think, and they're quite nice to be around. And all of the side missions are quite varied, which you will have to go and do some to progress up the level ladder, because when you get those missions that are cut off, well, not cut off, but they are difficult to do, or so difficult above your level that you'll have to do some side missions to level up and then be able to do those missions later on. So that's all good. That kind of, it makes you expand your experience of the game without making it feel like, oh, these are things I don't have to touch. I mean, you have to use them to up your level and progress in the game. So I don't have a problem with that at all. There are some boss battles in the game. Certainly towards the end part of the game there are a lot more. They're okay. They can be quite challenging. A couple of them are quite frustrating, but as boss battles go, they're always a difficult thing to get right, especially if you're not practiced or your game isn't set around that gameplay mechanic. If it's just thrown in for effect, then it can be a bit jarring. And I think this game has that problem where it's like, oh, suddenly you're doing a boss battle and okay, well, I'm not playing as a combat person, I'm playing as a stealth person, so now I'm fucked. Thanks for that. So yeah, it can be a bit jarring because it's not everything of the game, but these things do happen in Assassin's Creed. You do have the occasional boss battle, including fighting a full-size war elephant. That one was fun, a bit strange, a bit anticlimactic, but it was interesting to see. One thing I will say, the menus are extremely well organised, especially for a Ubisoft game. Normally things are hidden or extra button presses to find certain things or do things in certain menus. Here, very clean. The main options for your video, audio settings and gameplay settings and stuff, they are located very cleanly. A fair decent amount of optimization. I'm running a 980 and an i5 chip, I think. So I'm not like a low-end machine, but I'm not a high-end machine either. The ratings that you can change on all of your settings, they're kind of basic, but you've got a lot of freedom with certain bits, so that's good. The actual menus for your skill tree and your weapons and gear and stuff are very good. The skill tree is split into kind of 3 branches, and if you want to do more stealth and combat, you've got those options there. And some of those skills aren't really that impressive. They're things you might want to have, but you don't need. So you do end the game with quite a few ability points not used. And in terms of the gear screen, it's very, very well organised. You have your 2 melee weapons that you can carry at one time, your 2 bow and arrow setups with different types of bows, and all your your crafting stuff that you'll level up to increase your health, increase your damage, increase how many arrows you can carry, that kind of stuff. And it just changes your look. You can obviously get new shields as well as weapons, and it's just nicely laid out and it's very clean, and I do like the menus. They've put a lot of work into those, and I think they work for the game. It's not as jarring, it doesn't pull you out as much as some Assassin's Creeds have done in the past. So I think that's a really, really good part of the game. It's often overlooked in most games, but this one, they've really pulled out the bag with the menus as well as those beautiful environments. Now, the actual size of the game map is huge. We're talking about one section felt like a huge part of the game, but it's probably about a 20th or something. I can't remember how many areas there are now. I think there's probably about 10 to 15 separate areas, varying sizes, but in all different kind of level caps, I'll use that term. They're spread across the map. You won't necessarily reach all of them in the main game. I think some of them might be visited in some of the DLC, which I think will carry on the story quite nicely. But the expanse of the map makes you feel that they've really not only put a lot of detail into this game and in the environments and the variation on the side missions and the main missions, but they've done this over a huge area as well. So I think this game feels like less of a rinse and repeat and a little bit more like a statement to kind of go, look, we can get Assassin's Creed games right, guys, and here it is. And I think it comes across that way. I think it comes across with a bit more love and care. It's had a bit more time to get right, and I don't know what the developers actually think of the game themselves, but I think they can be proud of it. I don't feel like it's an embarrassment to say I like this game, whereas I did with other Assassin's Creed titles that were a bit light, they were a bit rinse and repeat. Certainly from Assassin's Creed 2 to Revelations, it felt like just rehashing the same game again and again. It didn't feel like they were trying anything different. But on the whole, I think this game does feel a bit different. It's not going too far away from the original. I think it's looking to be a refinement, and it is setting up the whole franchise effectively. It's very, very important in the whole canon of Assassin's Creed, and I think they've pulled it off. I really do. I'm looking forward to the DLC. I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. I'm looking forward to how they take it forward from here. Where are we going to go next? Who knows? But I was really worried about this game, and I'm so happy that I don't have a concern about that anymore. At 35 hours to complete the game, I'd say your bang for your buck is pretty damn good, and that's just the kind of the main missions with probably about, I don't know, 10 hours of doing side missions. So I think you've got a great, huge amount of time if you're into Assassin's Creed to waste into Assassin's Creed Origins. You could lose days and days into this game, I think, before doing everything. And not quite to the Skyrim levels of 300 hours plus 300 hours, but I certainly think you're going to get your bang for your buck if you buy the standard version. There are microtransactions and stuff, but don't worry about that. You don't have to buy any of that stuff. It does not affect the game. It's a single player game. You don't have to touch it. Please don't. That's how it is. They're there if you want them, but you don't need them at all. So that's my review of Assassin's Creed Origins. I really have enjoyed it. I think as a rating, I'd probably give it 8 out of 10. It's definitely not perfect. Very few games could even get close to that. But I think they've tried really hard to make it a good example of an Assassin's Creed game. They've managed it, and I think it's very possible this could be one of those Game of the Year releases. I think it's got the chops for it. I don't think it's done too many things wrong. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give it a seal of approval. I think it's a very good game. I wouldn't say you'd have to wait to get your money's worth either. I think it's a game that does provide. So 8 out of 10, that's a fair judgment. And interestingly, after all my talk about how much Lee hates Assassin's Creed, I spoke to him today just talking about the game itself, and he said, I've just bought it, you better not be wrong. So maybe he'll leave a comment on what he thinks about the game in his vitriol later on. But guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget, if you do like what you've seen here today, or you think I've missed anything about the review, please let us know down in the comments. I'll read every comment, get involved basically. But please leave us a comment, please subscribe if you haven't already. We do have videos coming out every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Oops, hit the mic. But guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, love you, bye bye.
He's spending 60% of his life locked in his fucking car shooting the same things over and over.
Okay, that's a good point. We'll come on to this now. So, in this game, we now have access to... I don't know if it was in the last game or not. I didn't play that one, but the risk is much higher as well.
Yeah, it's not just a PvP area either. It's an area that allows PvP, but there are AI enemies in there, and they're all hella tough. It's definitely designed for cooperative play in there.
Yeah, and I'd actually suggest